With the final shape, we got quite a bit of new content and some new weapons. The campaign is much better than Lightfall. It's engaging, addictive, and has you on the edge of your seat the entire time that you're playing it. The cutscenes are incredibly well made, so much so that they even brought some of my fellow content creators to tears. So massive props to Bungie for really getting their act together and using that extra long season that we had to make sure they absolutely delivered in the final shape. Though what brought me to tears is that there's actually not all that many new weapons, and most of what we got are actually reprisals. But luckily they did add a few new absolute banger options for both PvE and PvP, as well as some awesome new reprisals of old community favorite weapons. So today we're going to be covering the best new and reprised weapons in the final shape. As a quick note, I'm going to save the raid weapons for a different video and cover them once we have some more time to experiment with all the different options. Alright, I have to start off the PvP section with the least skill, highest reward weapon type in the entire game, shotguns. You know what I'm talking about. 2 keys is all you need to do to frag out with a shotgun. Move forward and shoot. That's about it. Okay, I'm half kidding. I actually really do enjoy using shotguns quite a bit, but in order to enable this playstyle even further, Bungie gave us the precision frame shotgun called Someday. It has solid stats and is craftable, which already puts it off to a great start. But then it also has the combination of enhanced opening shot and either elemental capacitor if you're an arc subclass enjoyer, or threat detector to boost handling on any subclass. This instantly became a top shotgun in the game, maybe only topped in the kinetic slot by the good old conditional finality. But Someday is a legendary, and that means you can run it with any exotic that you like. But before we talk about the perfect exotic to pair with your shotgun, I'd like to thank Star Wars Hunters for sponsoring this video. If you play PvP games and you like the Star Wars universe, then I think this new free-to-play game might be right up your alley. The fact that you're watching a Destiny video right now tells me you probably like having the ability to customize your character, and this is something that you can do tons of in Star Wars Hunters. It's full of unique costumes, tons of cool weapon appearances, and neat animations. The game features some intense third-person combat set in all of the different iconic Star Wars locations. It's 4v4 in format and has tons of playable characters, including bounty hunters, heroes of the rebellion, Imperial stormtroopers, and basically everything in between. There are multiple PvP modes out there to explore where you can dominate your opponents in the arena, and it's available to play now on Nintendo Switch, iOS, and Android devices. You can download the game using my link in the description or the pinned comment. Well, Bungie finally did it. They brought back one of my favorite pulse rifles in the history of the franchise, Red Death. I'm honestly kind of amazed that it took them so long to bring it back, considering how many other exotics returned years ago. But hey, I'm happy to be here shooting it again. This thing is beastly in both PvP as you'd expect if you played D1 at all, but also in PvE, especially after the recent buffs to pulse rifles. Final blows automatically heal you, which makes it a great choice whether you're facing other Guardians or PvE enemies, and those kills also buff your reload speed and cure your allies once you reload. Plus it gains a handling buff, less incoming flinch, and better movement speed just for dealing damage. Then when you're at low health, it deals bonus damage. Really, there's a lot to like here, and it feels like a great pick for pretty much any activity that you might want to try. Now, while we're on the topic of pulse rifles, it's time to talk about a reprised weapon that was reintroduced this season, and for this one, I'm not even salty that they recycled it. It was one of my all-time favorite weapons, and it might surprise you to hear that it's not even a hand cannon. Historically, I'm not really known to be a pulse rifle fan, but very long-time viewers of mine will know that back in year 1, I used to abuse the hell out of the Graviton Lance and Vigilance Wing, and then later the Redrix Claymore. The next pulse rifle that I absolutely fell in love with after this early era was Claws of the Wolf, which is a rapid-fire frame from the Iron Banner. The reason I love this gun so much was the extremely clean and open sight, combined with the carnage provided by Kill Clip. Plus, it actually had access to Headseeker back then as well, albeit that was way before the perk was desirable. Well, Bungie took away my fun when that one got sunset, and of course it recently got unsunset, but it wouldn't make the list for just this reason. No, Bungie actually reintroduced Claws of the Wolf, and yes, it can still get that legendary combo of Headseeker and Kill Clip once again. This time though, you'll also get an intrinsic perk that will take you off radar if you get a kill while you're weak. You can also go for Zen Moment and Headseeker, which is yet another extremely powerful combo, this time geared a little bit more towards consistency. I'm confident that this gun will be very popular in the Crucible for those who have the stomach for grinding Iron Banner, so make sure you don't miss out on this one. Let's move over to some PvE highlights. I guess I'm just one of the unlucky ones who never got my hands on an Indebted Kindness God roll, so I was pretty excited to see Bungie introduce another one of these rocket sidearms into the game. The call is of the Strand variety, and this one is craftable, so given enough time, anyone can eventually get their perfect roll. It's packed with great perks, so you have a lot of interesting options to pick from. Probably the combo of Lead from Gold and One for All is the most meta pick for endgame PvE activities, But there's also some strand synergy on the table with Slice and Hatchling. This one is high on my list for weapons to craft during the final shape. Okay, without a doubt, my own personal favorite new PvE weapon this expansion is definitely Still Hunt. It sounds amazing, it looks amazing, and it deals amazing burst damage. When you land precision hits or pick up orbs, you charge up the weapon and then can convert it into a golden gun just like the Hunter Super. Plus, if you pair it with the Celestial Nighthawk helmet, it will convert your normal golden gun shots into one super bullet that does insane damage. So if you're a hunter, you can effectively deal out back-to-back Celestial Nighthawk shots, which is just insane, and then even on other classes, you still have some amazing damage potential from a special weapon. In PvP, if you're able to land enough hits to power up the bullets, you can actually land one-shot body shots, which is pretty fun. I'm still absolutely in love with this new sniper, and honestly, it's been pretty hard to be putting it down to test other weapons because I just want to keep shooting it. If you've ever wanted to roleplay as Mercy from Overwatch, but in Destiny, well, this next auto rifle is for you. No Hesitation is our very first ever support frame. When you deal damage, you build up a charge of healing energy that you can then spend on your teammates by hip firing at them. This in turn gives you a damage buff just for being a good teammate. You can also give the restoration buff to your allies just to help them stay alive. It has a few perks to really lean into this healer role like Physic and Circle of Life, but it also has some classics like Incandescent for efficient ad clear as a damage dealer. Let's go back to a few PvP gems. Next up is a gun that feels so wrong to recommend in 2024. It's the old Year 1 hand cannon Better Devils. It has that famously overused weapon model, and long ago it was one of the only hand cannons that get explosive payload. Now though, it's been brought back to us as a Crucible reward and its element has been changed over to Strand. It still has explosive payload and you can still go for that one if you want to, but there's some other options. It's our second ever Strand 140 RPM hand cannon, but the other one doesn't get Slice nor Hatchling. In a duel, Slice would likely make your opponent need to land an extra shot on you, and it would also create a tangle on their death. This makes it incredibly powerful for guaranteeing a free win in a duel after you pop your class ability. Also, that threadling that you spawn from Hatchling can effectively stop reses and help you get an easier follow-up kill after you win that initial duel. Of course, there's also some consistency perks there too, most notably the combo of Rapid Hit and Zen Moment on the table, but I think the Strand flavor and the Strand perks is what makes it really one of the more interesting reworked options. Next up, I have a 2-in-1 entry, and that's the bromance of Hush and Pre-Astyanax. Hush was a former Pinnacle drop with the unique perk Archer's Gambit, and Pre-Astyanax isn't new in any way, but it did get a perk refresh. But the point of me bringing up these precision bows, even though bows got nerfed, is because both of them have the same perk Archer's Gambit in the right column and Archer's Tempo in the left, and they're pretty easy to farm. This means you can get some ridiculously fast draw time provided that you can aim when hipfire mode. You can get both of these bows from the Ritual playlist, and if you're a bit more experienced in the game, you might even be able to get your hands on an Adept roll. Whichever way you go, I think this is a combo you should definitely try. It's a high skill, high reward proposal, and I'm really happy to see more of these in Destiny 2. Next up is yet another community favorite, and it wasn't really my personal favorite, but a lot of people really liked it back when it got introduced. The Breachlight Aggressive Sidearm was one of the most unfortunate casualties of the sunsetting system. It came out immediately after sunsetting was introduced, but before Bungie decided that after a certain point they wouldn't sunset anything anymore. So we got to enjoy this gun for 1 year and then it was forgotten. It was one of the best sidearms in the game for both PvP and PvE, and I think the way they brought it back, it's still going to be a top contender. The aggressive frames don't have the most lethal TTK for PvP, but they're pretty relaxed, and this one has a very nice and open sight, so I think the Breachlight is a pretty good option. Not to mention it's now Strand, so you get to profit off of all of those Strand synergies that you could dream of. I think the role that I would want for PvP is something along the lines of Perpetual Motion and Swashbuckler, but you really can't go wrong with whatever you choose. We have a new reward from the competitive ranked playlist in PvP, and this time it's an auto rifle. The Riposte is actually a lightweight frame auto and it fires at 720 RPM. It has some great consistency perks like Zen Moment, Tap the Trigger, and Dynamic Sway Reduction, and it also has some lethality perks like Kill Clip and Target Lock. I'm not sure yet how Target Lock influences the time to kill on this archetype, but if you know, share it in the comments. I absolutely love the clean sights on this thing. I will definitely be on the hunt for a high range version of this auto all season long in comp, especially since Bungie refuses to give me the perfect rose, so I pretty much need to play it each week anyway until they finally give it up. The new pulse rifle from Trials in this expansion is looking really spicy. It's a heavy burst frame, which means it fires in bursts of 2 and it has some really nice looking perks. For consistency, you can go with Zen Moment or Keep Away and Head Seeker or Moving Target, but it also has Kill Clip or Desperado on the table for some more lethality. It's really nice to see Bungie making this frame available in a non-exotic form. I've loved Revision 0 ever since it was first introduced, and I'm excited to farm for some great rolls on this one when it's available in trials. Well, it's 2024 and we have Khvostov back in our hands yet again. If you're newer to the game, this was the very first ever weapon you received as a Guardian back in Destiny 1, and now we have it both as a legendary and exotic version in Destiny 2. Let's focus on the exotic one, which is definitely more interesting. Every 7th bullet deals extra damage and ricochets to hit nearby targets. Then collecting orbs also strengthens this effect. I've already seen some hilarious clips of this action in PvP matches, and I think we'll enjoy a lot of funny moments when more people get their hands on this thing. It also has shoot to loot, which has become a really popular pick for harder PvE content where you need to collect ammo or orbs, but you don't want to venture out into danger too far. If you're a big Wither Horde enjoyer but have never liked giving up your exotic slot, well, first, welcome to the club. But I have good news for you. Lost Signal is basically a legendary version with some interesting perks. Auto-loading holster is a pretty obvious choice over on the left, because really, who likes to reload a grenade launcher? But on the right, there's the new perk Reverberation, which increases the size of the detonation. Honestly, I haven't had time yet to see if this one's worth using, but the idea is certainly very interesting. And even if that perk is bad, you still have some other good options to choose from. This next one isn't the most exciting thing on the planet, but it's really nice to have all of the various elemental damage options covered for endgame PvE, and Line in the Sand is arguably the new best arc linear fusion rifle. You can pair Clown Cartridge or Demolitionist with Firing Line or Bait and Switch for some really solid damage and a lot less time reloading. If you're a machine gun fan, then you should really be on the hunt to craft the new Pro Memoria this season. It's the first ever aggressive frame machine gun, meaning it fires at 600 RPM, and it has some amazing perks like Reconstruction on the left, paired with Frenzy or Desperate Measures on the right. Since it's craftable, you can pick any perk combo that you want, and I think there's a good reason that this is one of the more popular heavy weapons so far in this expansion. Finally, I need to mention Ergo Sum. This is the first ever multi-frame, multi-exotic perk sword, and honestly, I'm not even sure how to create this section. I think it definitely deserves a video all on its own because I can't possibly cover all the amazing combinations and builds here. Have you ever wanted a caster frame sword that can shoot wolfpack rounds? Or maybe a wave frame that zaps everyone nearby with electricity? Well, then this thing is for you. This thing feels like Bungie looked at what the community did during the crafting event several months ago and then decided to put it all into just one sword. Plus, did I mention that it uses special ammo instead of heavy? I feel like we've just barely scratched the surface on what this thing can do, and the builds that people are going to come up with over time are just going to be insane. Don't forget to try out the brand new Star Wars Hunters game available on Nintendo Switch, iOS, and Android devices. You can download the game using my link in the description or the pinned comment. Up next, check out my favorite build so far for the new Prismatic Hunter. It's linked on screen and in the description.